Hi everyone. So today we will look at the part 2 of observer pattern and how we can improve our code base. As you see, last time we discussed that we had the weather object which had a measurement change method and it was doing everything and displays were there hard coded. So as suggested, what we could do to improve the code, we decided to create a list. Now in order to create the list and to fill the display, we needed a display kind of type. So that is why what we did, we created an interface called as display, which has an abstract method called as update. And following parameters were added like temperature, pressure, humidity. Okay. And all these display methods were basically implementing the update method, were implementing the update method. Okay. Now I have this list of observer. Now at runtime, I want to add and remove uh, displays from this particular array list. How do we do it? So we created two methods. One is register observer and the other is remove observer. Okay. So, and we are passing parameter as display D. So, whatever observer we want to add to this list, we just need to call the add method, and whatever observer we need to remove from the list, we can remove it. Now, this is an eager initialization, which is never recommended approach in programming scenarios until unless necessary. Okay. We can do a lazy initialization too. With lazy initialization, whenever the weather object constructor is being created, there we can initialize this observer list. Okay. So best option would be to do the lazy initialization only. So weather object, and here you can do observer equals to new array list. Okay. Okay, now what we did, now in our measurements change method, we had lot of getter methods. We were storing it into the local variables and then we were doing this for loop kind of thing, right? And in the parameters, we were sending the data. So instead of, now this part of the code was responsible for basically updating. So it is kind of a notifying. So we secluded that part of code in one method. Okay, we wrapped it into one method called as notify observer. Okay, so if anyone wants to do notify observer from outside without using this measurement changed, we can directly use this method. Okay, so which is why we have it in a different method, and in measurement change method we are directly calling the notify observers. In this way, measurement change method is also very compact and cleaner to look at and to understand, and readability of the code has increased. Okay, so this was our weather object class. Now you see few modifications I have done. Okay, now this entire weather object, this is a concrete class, you see. So we can have one interface as well of it. Okay, in case if we are a lot of subjects. So um, before coming to what is a subject and an observer, so basically in observer pattern, what it says that the class which holds the data is called as a subject, and the class which consumes the data or which is always waiting to receive the data is known as an observer. Okay, so in our case, the weather object is the subject, and display interface which you see, or the displays different concrete classes, these are your observers. Okay, and in observer pattern, there is always one to many kind of relationship. Okay, so for particular subject, there could be there can be many observers. Okay, so it is a one-to relationship, and whenever the state of the weather object changes, its dependent should be updated. Now, what are its dependents? Basically, the registered observers of the weather object class. Okay, so what we can do, we can create an interface and have the methods. What is the benefit of creating? Again, we have an abstracted code. Okay, runtime only we are injecting the object into this weather interface reference. Okay, so yeah, that is a benefit. Okay, as already spoken about it. Now, how do we register the observer? Now we know whenever a display is created, object is created, we want it to be registered to the weather object so that it gets the notification. So what you can do, either you can uh, in the constructor of this weather display concrete class itself, you can register your display to the subject, or what you can do, you can manually, wherever it is being called, there you can also register it. Okay, it is based on your approach. Okay, so what we are doing it over here, before even coming to this register, one more important thing I wanted to call it out was, you see, we are never passing the parameters in this update. Now, what is the benefit? Because what was the issue with this having these parameters which you see over here? The issue was that we need to remember the order of these parameters whenever we are using it. Okay, and of course we need to remember the type as well. So a very cumbersome process. So instead of doing that, what we are doing, we are creating a hazard relationship. Okay, so you can see the observer has the subject. Okay, so the concrete class, that is the weather object reference we have created. Okay, and whenever this display one object is being created, we are initializing this weather object. Uh, we are doing this constructor injection in short term, and we are registering as well this particular display observer to this weather object uh, class. Okay, and what is the benefit? Now we don't have to pass these parameters. Now whenever we I want data pointers of temperature, what I can do, I can just do dot get temp or dot get pressure or dot get humidity. And let's say in future other data pointers are added, I don't need to modify the parameters and check everything is in sync. Okay, all I have to do is to what, I have to just modify this update method itself. Okay, so yeah, this was the entire observer pattern. So observer pattern basically says, so there is a subject and there is an observer. An observer is someone who is always waiting for the new data to come into picture. And a subject is someone who is the owner of the data. Okay. And he is the one who is to call notify on different observers in order to automatically update these displays. So observer pattern, very simply it says that for a given subject there could be multiple observers, and whenever there is a data change in a subject, it should get automatically updated in all its dependents or your observers, whatever you want to call it. Okay, automatic update is the very key term over here. Okay, and during runtime we should be able to add or remove these dependents or your observers. Okay, now how will your client code look like? So your client code would look like, so I'll create weather object. Okay, new weather object I created. Okay, so now your array list has been initialized of observer. So I'll add few observers. So what I will do, I will do display one, uh, d1 equals to new display one. Instead of display one, just use this. Okay, d1. Okay, and here since I need to subscribe it to which object, it is the weather object. All the themselves, they need to subscribe, so I need to pass it the object, right? And again display 2, same way display 2 will be also need to subscribe to one object, right? So d2 I'll just call it. So two displays have subscribed, and now if you do if you update the data. So if you do what else you can do, you want to set the data, right? So or you need to call the measurement change or setter. You have getters, also have the setters method, and whenever there is a setter method is being called, what you can do in these setter methods itself, you can also call measurement change method. Okay, now this is not basically your functional lambda expression, it's just the way to for me to tell you. Okay, in its implementation you can write measurement change method being called. Okay, so yeah, so you can just use, you can call the setter method, okay, on this weather object. So o dot set, let's say you set temperature, okay, pressure and humidity, okay, whatever data pointers you change, what should happen, d1 and d2 should be automatically updated. Okay, so yeah, this is the entire code. We will see the uh, its implementation in the next part of it. So I hope it is clear. That was all. Thank you so much.